Okay, today we're going to look at the Midrash in Sefer Ha-Aggadah, page 19, which deals with the aftermath of Cain in heaven. Cain kills Havel, right? Cain in heaven. Spoke about it yesterday. And then when Hashem speaks to Cain and he punishes him, Cain complains. He says, "Now you have driven me away. You have banished me from the soil. I must avoid your presence," etc. And further, he says, "Anyone who meets me may kill me." Cain now feels that since he is the first murderer, his blood has no value. Now other could kill him. The promise: if anyone kills Cain, sevenfold vengeance shall be taken on him. So again, the pshat of the pasuk, the literal meaning of the pasuk is that Cain is protected because anyone who touches him will be punished. Right? But the Midrash wanted to look at it in a different way. That the punishment for Cain came only after 7 generations. So he saw 7 generations of his descendants, and then he died. So the seventh generation of Cain would be seventh generation of Cain would be after Cain had. Oh, well, look at the generations of Cain. So Cain had Hanoch, then Irad, Mehuyael, Metushael, Lemekh. So Lemekh was the 6th generation of Cain, and Lemekh had 3 sons and 1 daughter. His 3 sons were Yaval, Yuval, and Tuval Cain, and the daughter was Naamah. Each one of these 3, Yaval, Yuval, Tuval Cain, the names ring similar because the word Yaval or Yuval means to lead. So they were leaders in a certain way. The Torah says one of them was Avi Yoshev Oelu Mikneh, that he was the first shepherd after Havel was killed. The other one was Avi Kol Tofes Kinor Ve'ugav, the first musician, which in that time was also an educator. And the third was Lotesh Kol Horesh Nehoshet U'Barzel, the first blacksmith. So together they represent agriculture, technology, and education. It's a nice story that in Naamah, the sister is called Naamah, which means pleasant. So that might be entertainment or relaxation. So they represent everything that humanity has to have. So the children of Lemekh are the 7th generation of Cain. Now there is another. We have to look first in the Tanakh before we go to the Midrash. There is an interesting poem, sort of, that Lemekh delivers to his wives. He had 2 wives. And the Torah says that he comes to his wives and he says, "V'emer Lemekh anashav, Ada v'tzila shema'an koli neshe Lemekh hazena imrati, ki ish haragti lefitz'i v'yeled lehaburati." The translation here is accurate. The JPS translates. What did he say? He said, "Listen to me, O wives of Lemekh, I have slain men for wounding me, and a lad for bruising me." What he says is, I rule. I am the most powerful, and anyone who dares confront me or offend me will be severely punished. So he says, I killed a man for just wounding me, and even a kid for just bruising me. Meaning I will not tolerate any resistance, and that shows us the deterioration of mankind after the first sin was Adam and his wife going against God in something that was arbitrary and really seemed to have no significance. But the following act was that of Cain, who killed his brother as what we would call a crime of passion. It was emotional, heated, but it's murder. But now what comes here is premeditated murder, like cold-blooded murder, meaning this is in order to establish my rule, my government, I will kill any opponents. And then he goes on to say, "Ki shiv'atayim yukam Cain, ve'Lemekh shiv'im v'shiv'am." If Cain is avenged 7-fold, then Lemekh 77-fold. The literal meaning of the text is this, that he interprets the leniency with which God treated Cain as a license to keep on doing the same thing. He says, if God told Cain that he's going to be saved of punishment, and anyone who touches him will be punished sevenfold, then that means that murderers could be off the hook. So he misunderstands what God told Cain. So this is the narrative of the Torah. Again, Cain killed Hevel, then God banishes him. He asks for protection, and God says, anyone who touches you will be punished severely. Then Lemekh interprets that as a permission to murder, and he says anyone who does anything to me will be punished more severely than those who harm Cain. And as we said, he had those 4 children. The Midrash sees it differently. The Midrash says that Cain had to be punished, but it took 7 generations for him to finally receive his punishment. And how did it come about? And it says this is the following story. Lemekh ben beno shel Cain haya shevi'i ledorot vesomeh haya. Lemekh, the descendants of Cain, was the 7th generation. Already a problem because Lemekh was 6th and not 7th. And they say Lemekh was blind. And was what? Blind. פעם אחת יצא לצוד והיה בנו אוחזו בידו. He went hunting, and his son would lead him. And the way they work as a team, where his son would direct him, would say, "Oh, I see an animal in that direction," and this could happen with teams who work perfectly together. That of course today they would perform in Vegas and not hunting in the forest, but that one person is blindfolded, the other one is directing him, and they can shoot or throw knives. But between Lemekh and his son, according to the Midrash, the son would say, "I see an animal," and he would direct his father, and his father, since he was more powerful, would shoot the arrow and kill that animal. So one time he saw a strange animal with a horn coming out of his forehead, and it turns out that it was Cain. And this Midrash interprets the Ot Cain, the stigma or the sign that God gave Cain as a horn, that then he looked like a wild beast. So the boy tells his father, "I see a beast, I see a wild animal," and he shoots the arrow and kills Cain. And when they come closer, and the kid looks at the body, he says, "Wow, it looks more like a human with a horn." So then Lemekh understood that he killed his great-great-grandfather, Cain, and he felt so sorry and so devastated that he clapped his hand to each other like to show sorrow, and while doing that, he smashed the head of his son between his hands. Right? So now this is a fantastic story. Because really one has to be very, very powerful to do that. To smash a skull between your hands. It's not easy. Especially since what the Midrash calls a tinok, a young lad, like a tinok in the rabbinic literature is a 16, 17-year-old, it really cannot be a kid, because the Torah clearly says that Lemekh had 3 sons. Yaval, Yuval, and Tuval Cain. And it also says that each one of them was a master in his field. One was a musician, the other one was the first shepherd, the other one was the first blacksmith. So when in their lifetime they achieved all that, it means that they, at a certain point, they're not teenagers, not kids, they're adult, grown-up men. The Midrash does all that in order to try to bring the 7th generation. But here is an interesting story that we have a story that was borrowed from an alien culture, not alien in the sense of, outer space, but from a foreign culture, was preserved in the Scandinavian mythology, but probably came to Israel through the Greeks. And in that story, the gods are plotting against each other, and one of them wants to take revenge. So he guides the hand of one of the gods called Baldur, who was a marksman but blind, And he says, shoot here. It's the exact same story. He was shoot here, and he shoots the arrow, and he kills someone, and then he's devastated, meaning that of course, the god that, according to this mythology, orchestrated all that is Loki, the god of evil, or and mischief. But this is something that doesn't really belong in our in Jewish literature. It was a story that was appropriated in order to understand, to solve the psukim, that one pasuk says Cain will be revenged sevenfold, and Lemekh says I will be revenged 77fold. He mentions Cain. So to tie everything together, we have the story where this is like poetic justice, that Cain is killed by his great-great-grandson, right? And then his 8th generation also disappears in the process. But this is not, even though it become like an interesting midrash in a way of, in terms of entertainment, of getting people's attention and listening to the story, it's a great story. You can imagine when the rabbi tells the story in the synagogue, it is much more entertaining than what I told you before, that how, Lemekh is establishing his statement of power and control. So this is an example of some of the, when you come to Midrashic literature, to the Aggadah that the rabbis wrote, you don't take everything literally. You have to ask yourself whether it is an interpretation of the pasuk, or a certain agenda, a message that is delivered, or in this case just borrowing a story from a different culture and using it somehow to weave it into the pasuk. Because in this case, the only message that one could derive from the pasuk is that eventually justice will be made. But it's not justice in a fair way, because we would say, why would Cain, the murderer, be let off the hook? Why are we letting a person who killed his brother roam freely under the divine protection? He could kill many other people in the while he's free. So that, even though it has the idea of poetic justice, it's not enough. So I think it's important that when we see this midrash, to look back at the pasuk, the way I explained the process of deterioration. That's the process of deterioration, of moral decline, from the beginning of the Torah to the emergence of Avraham Avinu. And that is that with every step, every infringement or every crime that is being committed, the next generation says, okay, now we can do more. Now we're allowed to, if that went unpunished, right? They interpret the leniency as a permission to do more. So Adam eats from the fruit of the tree of knowledge and is driven out of Gan Eden. He is not killed, as God says, so God lets him off the hook. Cain already takes it to the next level, where he actually commits a crime that is understood by all of us as a taboo. That's a natural thing, that we understand that we should not kill each other, because we humans, we have the natural understanding of the value of life. But he did that, crime of passion. When God confronts him and he says, why did you kill your brother? First he feigns ignorance, I don't know what you're talking about. But then when God says you're going to be punished, he says, "En gerashta oti hayom umipanecha esater." You are driving me away, and I have to hide from you. And what he says to God is, look, Adam, my father, was driven away from the Garden of Eden, and he had to hide from you among the trees. And now I am driven away, and I have to hide. So I see a pattern here. This is what Cain tells God. I see a pattern, and then probably it is not my problem. It's your problem. You created a faulty system. You see, if you have to do it to my father, you have to do it to me, something is wrong. So God says, okay, I accept your argument. I let you off the hook. So in a way, like the midrash that we said yesterday, Cain says, it's not my fault that I killed my brother. The circumstances, I was hot-headed. You are the one who rejected my sacrifice and accepted his. You never solved it. God says, you're right. I'll give you a second chance. But some people see the second chance that is given to people who maybe committed the crime as a crime of passion, and take it as license to go on with that. So Lemekh interprets that, I can do whatever I want. Now that my children are the pillars of civilization, the shepherd, the musician, the blacksmith, the one who provides entertainment maybe, I can do whatever I want. So he says, Ki ish harabti lepitz'i ve'ered lachaburati. No one will confront me because I will kill them. That's the law of the jungle, or in Hebrew, in Aramaic, kol de'alim gavar. Whoever has more power is Cain. And what was the result of that? The flood, what happened before the flood, the Torah says, Ki male'ah haaretz Hamas mipenehem. It was a system of injustice. Hamas in the Tanakh always means injustice, but under the disguise of a government setting. It's legal injustice, sort of the Nuremberg laws of the Nazis, where slowly they legislated the Jews out of any rights, or what the when Jews of the Middle East and of Arab countries were driven away, right? They were told you could immigrate to any country you want. You should file for immigration. Once they filed, their citizenship was revoked. So they had no land. Now they had no status, right? Now, after this was done, if they come and complain, who are they going to complain to? No one recognizes them. So the Hamas that happened as a result of Lemekh's control, it was a one man rule for his environment, for his immediate surroundings. I will control the people who are under my power. But then it became a global system of Malei Haaretz Hamas et Hashem, Bnei Elohim, the children of the judges, meaning those who had held high positions, oppressed the poor, and it became a system that was all corrupt. After the flood, the first thing that God tells Noah is, Shofech dam ha'adam, ba'adam damo yishafech. What you have to do, you have to establish now a system of justice. You cannot rely on God to bring poetic justice. You need real justice. How does it work? Shofech dam ha'adam, ba'adam damo. He who sheds the blood of men, by men his blood will be shed. It is, in Hebrew it sounds Shofech dam ha'adam ba'adam damo yishafech. It's reflexive, right? It goes backwards in both directions. And what the Torah says is this: it is eventually your responsibility. If there are murderers, you have to bring them to justice. You cannot let a murder of the hope. It's almost as if God is saying, what I did was not right. It didn't work out well. I let Cain off the hook, and look what happened with Lemekh and then with the flood. So you have, and in that sense, you could say that the whole story of the flood and what happened before that didn't really happen in that way, but rather is symbolic. This is a story of to humanity. Is be careful to not take that path. Now, if it sounds, I would say, crazy for today's society that we would let a known murderer off the hook, right? Impossible. Sometimes there are behind the scenes all kind of shady deals, or there's not enough evidence, or a brilliant lawyer. But usually, if what would society do if you see, let's say, in the middle of the street, one man murdering another person, right? And then everybody saw that. Everybody's a witness of that murder. Is there a way that person will not be punished?
Self-defense?
No, not self-defense. Not self-defense. That if it was definitely, there was an innocent victim and the other one just killed him to take his possessions. He would probably be punished. Not in ancient times. In antiquity, before biblical law, there was a way for that person, and that's why the Torah repeats several times, Lo tikehu chofer lenefesh rotzeach. You shall not accept ransom for the soul of the murderer. He says, why would you accept ransom? Why would you let the murderer go free? The answer is that in ancient society, there was a certain equilibrium that you had to maintain within every group, usually in a small village. People had small communities. It's a village, it's a small city, and every person was needed. If it was an enemy anyway, they would kill the enemy. We're talking about two people who know each other, or from the same tribe or clan, who killed each other. So So the elders or the judges would say, and this is documented, that since we need, let's say the murderer is a skilled, let's say blacksmith, right? Okay, and he killed the carpenter. So now the community says, okay, we already lost our carpenter. Are we going to lose our blacksmith also? It's a big problem. We have to let him live. But he will have to pay ransom to save his life. God says this does not happen. That's why after the flood, the Torah says, Shofech dam ha'adam, va'adam damu shofech. The punishment for murder is execution, because that person showed that he has no value for human life, and it should serve as a deterrent for future criminals not to do so. So that, in the context of Cain and Hevel, we see the difference between how the Midrash took the story and what we learn when we look at the Pshat of the Pasuk. Baruch Adonai, Amen.